everyone, this week we'll be making some focaccia. It's an Italian bread and I made this a couple times before, but I just wanted to incorporate some new things I learned to see if the focaccia will turn out better. I'll release an easier version one of these days, but for now, let's get started on this small experiment. First, we're going to start with our Poolish Preferment. We're going to need 294 grams of all-purpose flour and 6 grams of vital wheat gluten, 1 gram of yeast, and 300 grams of water. Mix everything together until you see no more dry flour. Afterwards, cover it with plastic wrap and let it ferment overnight for 12 hours at least. This pre-ferment is called a Poolish and it's more runny compared to the Biga in the Stromboli video. Either one will help enhance our bread's flavor. This is how my pre-ferment looked after 12 hours. Your Poolish should look bubbly and wobbly like this and have a lot of air pockets on the surface. Now we're going to add our other ingredients. I have 9 grams of yeast. We will add that to 370 grams of water. Give it a good mix to hydrate the yeast. We're going to add this to our pre-ferment, along with 18 grams of salt. Once again, mix everything together until well incorporated. Next, grab 588 grams of all-purpose flour and 12 grams of vital wheat gluten. Dump your pre-ferment mixture into it, and then we're going to start mixing again. We're going to mix it until it's a shaggy ball with no dry flour again. Yeah, that's right, bread's just a lot of mixing and waiting, I'm not even going to lie. Oh, and weighing out ingredients as well. Once everything is mixed, add in 18 grams of olive oil. And then, like I said just before, mix it again until everything's well incorporated. I like to do this with a spatula because the dough is super sticky, but if you want to do it by hand, be my guest. I then cover it with a towel and let it rest for 30 minutes. Okay, we're going to start creating gluten for our dough, but since this dough is super sticky unlike our previous ones, we're going to use the stretch and fold method rather than kneading it normally. First, dip your hand in some water as this will help prevent sticking. Then take an edge of the dough, stretch it as far as you can before it will tear, and fold it over. Then you rotate it 90 degrees and repeat the process until you did all around the dough. As you can see right here, there is minimal stickage due to the water, but if you were to knead it normally, there's a lot of stickage. Once we're done with this stretch and fold, cover with a towel and wait another 30 minutes. We're going to need to do the stretch and fold another 3 times with 30-minute intervals in between. This will be the second stretch and fold and I'll be showing it in another angle. Once again, dip your hands in the water, take an edge and stretch it as far as you can and fold it over. Turn the bowl 90 degrees and repeat the process with each edge. The key to this is handling the dough quickly as this will prevent it from sticking to your hands. Technically, you can knead it, but I'm still not good enough to show it on camera yet, so maybe one of these days. But for now, let's stick with this method as it is quite the simple one. Each stretch and fold, your dough should be getting more and more smooth and elastic as well, and it will actually get a little bit harder to stretch as well, which goes to show how much the gluten is developing. When you're done with the stretch and fold, make sure to always use a wet towel or plastic wrap to cover up the dough to prevent drying. After the 4th stretch and fold, your dough should look pretty smooth and it should puff up a lot by now. Grab a half sheet pan and pour a generous amount of olive oil on the bottom. I'm not gonna lie, it's quite a lot and that's why it's so unhealthy, but also why it's really delicious. Plop your dough onto the sheet pan and then flip it over so it coats both sides evenly. Alright, now we want to stretch the dough to the edges of the pan. The dough will probably resist stretching at a certain point, and what we need to do is cover it up with some plastic wrap and let it rest for 10 to 15 minutes to let the gluten relax before trying again. This is after the first rest period, and as you can see, it's a little easier to stretch this time and a little less resistant. It took me 2 rest periods before I can finally stretch my dough all the way to the end. It could be different for you. You gotta be the judge of that. This is basically almost good for me because I'll stick it in the fridge overnight to proof. I wanted to bake it fresh for a barbecue, so I didn't want to bake it the night before. If you want to bake it on the same day, proof it for 30 to 45 minutes. Either way, preheat your oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit before performing the next step. This is how my focaccia looked the next day, or how yours should look if you were to do the 30 to 45 minutes proofing time. It should be a little jiggly, wobbly, full of air bubbles. We're going to take 3 fingers like I show right here and make dimples all along to show that signature focaccia look. You want to press it down, but not all the way to the bottom of the pan. Be a little gentle. Now I'm going to add my toppings on my focaccia. I'll be using half grape tomatoes and rosemary as well. Feel free to use whatever you want, to be honest. Also, I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty sure this is the pizza dough that they use for Sicilian slices, and I think I used it before too, and it turned out pretty great too, so if you want to make a pizza out of this, definitely an option. Finally, in the end, I'm going to top it off with some extra strong olive oil that I had on hand, and I'm also going to add some salt on top as well. Once that's done, stick in the oven for 30 to 35 minutes. It should be golden brown, and the bottom should be as well when it's done. Here's me taking it out of the oven, and oh man, it was hot, which is why I was making those weird faces. But here it is. Look at that baby. Nice and brown, crispy. Ooh, and it smells amazing when I took it out of the oven. I let it sit for 10 minutes before transferring to a wire rack to cool for another 30 minutes. You gotta make sure to let it cool before cutting through it. And that's how you make some focaccia. There are definitely quicker ways to do it, but I wanted to experiment with some things I learned in order to see if it made a difference. I have to say it does, but whether it's worth the effort is subjective. Personally, I feel that extra step, which is the pre-ferment, is definitely worth it, because I do taste a subtle difference, but taste is subjective, so I'll release an easier focaccia video down the line one of these days. Hey, thanks for watching my video, and if you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe for more random cooking videos down the line, and follow me on Instagram at Weekend Cooks. Take it easy.